popping out every day, prom night. So if it's all love, show me love.
Hello, my name is Leslie. I have a private practice called Healing Circle in Maryland. And if you check out my page, you've seen me do just short snippets about things over the years on mental health. But the other day I was watching reality TV. It's one of my great pastimes, watching reality TV. I find it a really, just nice outlet for me to decompress after work, after talking to people all day and helping people and active listening and really trying to help them with their problems. I really use reality TV to help me kind of unwind. I even kind of joke with my clients sometimes about the things that are on TV that I see. And then I had this idea. I was watching one of my shows I like to watch. I'm a little longer in the tooth if you're watching this. I have 2 teenage children. Like I said, I run a practice. So being a little longer in the tooth, some of the shows I watch are a little bit older. I'm a Real Housewives girl, and I'm a Vanderpump Rules girl. I love Vanderpump Rules. That is one of my shows. And watching it the other day, this new season, I had the idea of what if I talked about these characters or these reality stars, and I said, hey, I have a client that fits this profile. How would I help that client? I think many of us that watch reality TV, one of the things that we love about it is the transparency that we get. We really get a good inside, or somewhat of an inside or perception of some of these people's lives, what their family dynamics are like, what their relationships and their intimate relationships are like, if they have addiction issues. And we really get to go on a journey with reality TV stars to kind of see the things that they value. When they accomplish things, we're excited for them. When they're down and not doing so well, we're hoping that they get better. And so I really wanted to start this new segment called Healing Culture. Because my business is Healing Circle, I thought if we do Healing Culture, taking mental health and pop culture and putting them together and creating a space for healing, it could help people. Many of us resonate with some of these stars that we see on TV and some of the things that they're going through. Some people watching may have never done therapy before and are curious about therapy. So I just thought this would be a really great opportunity to share what I thought, what my clinical insight, professional insight is on clients that fit similar profiles, how I would help them, what their treatment plan would look like. Let's go on this journey. I'm going to do, for my first one, Vanderpump Rules, we're going to do a 3-part series on this one because, as we know, for those of you watching Vanderpump Rules, there's a large cast, right? And they're all very interesting personalities on TV. I've been watching them since the beginning and feel like I know some of them, right? As many of us do. So let's start the series off with doing Vanderpump Rules. Hopefully from there, I will organically pick where we go from there, whatever kind of comes at me as I'm watching some of the shows that I tend to watch. I'm sure we'll probably do Real Housewives of Potomac at some point. We may do Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I know the reunion is running right now, and I'm watching that. I have a lot of things to say, not about all the women on the show, but definitely want to give my 2 cents, my clinical opinion on clients that I see with some of the same or very presenting issues, some of the similar presenting issues. Again, this is just my professional opinion. And when I see clients that come in with some of these presenting issues, this is just my clinical opinion on how I would help them. It's not Bible. It's not, oh, well, you said this about Tom Sandoval. This must be facts. No, this is just my clinical opinion on someone who presents in this way, how I could help them. So I hope this is a safe space to do that. So let's start with Vanderpump Rules. Okay, so Vanderpump Rules. Vanderpump Rules has a special place in my heart. Why? Because I have been there since the beginning of 2013. I have watched every season of Vanderpump Rules. As many of us know, when the show started, we had characters like Stassi, we've had Kristen Doty, we've had Jax, Raquel. We'll talk a little bit about Raquel, but not too much in this series. Even Charlie, we've got a lot of characters coming through. I can say the first few years of watching Vanderpump, Stassi was pretty, Jax and Stassi seemed to be pretty much taking a lot of the screen time. I have my own opinions on them. We're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about season 13. We're going to talk about the cast for season 11. We're going to talk about the cast for season 11. We're going to talk about season 10 going into season 11. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about some of the cast members, how they relate to certain clients that I've seen, or if they were a client presenting with some of these issues, how I would help them. That's kind of where we're going to pinpoint. But for those of you watching that don't know Vanderpump Rules, it's a spinoff from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, which is also one of my favorite shows. Lisa Vanderpump, she's a boss. She did the spinoff. She has her restaurant. She's got Pump. She helped Tom Tom. She invested in Tom Tom so they could have that restaurant. I love a boss woman, and Lisa is that. She has done a lot for not only her businesses, but for the cast members of the show. They are all stars now on Vanderpump Rules. She has helped them with investing in their businesses. She has really, I think, done some really great things for the cast members and for her business and for her brand. So, Vanderpump Rules, we have a long journey with them. When season 10 came out, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But when I tell you, I was watching with popcorn in hand at every turn. Okay. Season 10 had me on a ride that I will never forget. I will never forget. This cast definitely kept me laughing, was a breath of fresh air, was a way from my reality, out of my reality. And then the reunion was just the cherry on top. I mean, can we argue about that? It was the cherry on top. The reunion. I think Lisa made some really good points in the reunion, which I'll get to. And then here we rolling out season 11, and season 11 is giving all that it needs to give from season 10. And I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. So, in season 10, Lisa talked about to all the castmates, hey, there's a lot of hypocrisy here. Everyone has had their hands dirty at some point, right? And can we have empathy for others? So can we take accountability? And can we have empathy for others? And I think that's really the theme of this 3-part series of talking about people that present with some of the same issues presenting issues that some of the castmates have. Accountability is really important, and empathy for others, especially for our friends, right, is really important. And we see the cast struggle with that, right? We see them struggle with taking accountability for their own stuff, putting the mirror on themselves, and really doing the work to work on self, right? And to hope that, okay, I'm going to do my work and you do your work, and then maybe we can find somewhere in between, maybe set some healthy boundaries with each other. But to point the finger, to make the accusations, and to not really recognize the log in our own eyes, right, is not helpful. But it makes for great TV nonetheless, right? So let's start talking about the different characters on the show, how, if I had a client presenting with some of these characteristics, how I might help that client. So, first, let's talk about Lisa Vanderpump. Like I said, Lisa Vanderpump is a boss, okay? Um, I admire her. She's a little intimidating, I'll say, but I think that she enjoys that. I think that she enjoys, having that position that she carries, and it's where she's most secure, being the leader, being in charge. If I had a client with a similar profile from Lisa, um, some of the things that I would be kind of highlighting is this kind of control piece. A client with a Lisa Vanderpump profile probably has an avoidant attachment style. People that have an avoidant attachment style, they have a strong sense of independence. They don't rely on others for care or support. They avoid emotional or physical intimacy. They feel a strong sense of independence, like I was saying, being in charge. They're uncomfortable with expressing emotions and feelings, especially uncomfortable emotions in feelings. They try to stay away from that. They can be dismissive, or it can come off as dismissive from others. But their leadership skills can be unmatched, right? Because they can be detached in a way. And so a client with that profile, I would really be doing some identity work with them, a values assessment with them. I would try to find tools to help them increase their vulnerability and how to help them cultivate authentic relationships where they're not in charge all the time, and seeing, kind of how to play with that. However, if I had a client that fit this profile like Lisa Vanderpump, given her age, and is beautiful, a beautiful woman, but given her age and her high functioning and how well this has worked for her, I think she's fine. She's good to go. Maybe she has a couple of difficult relationships in her life to come to terms with, and she would be on her way. Lisa Vanderpump is high functioning. She's efficient, effective. She knows who she is. But that comes with age, right? Wisdom comes with age, and we see that with Lisa. We also see with her husband, he's very doting, and he lets her be her, which is really important. He lets her be in that role. And because he lets her be in that role, when he does say something that's important to him, she's able to fall back and to receive that. They have a really good, healthy dynamic, it looks like. And Lisa doesn't sweat the small stuff, and she doesn't get very emotional, which also helps her have a long-standing relationship. She's not only able to emotionally regulate, but sometimes she's a little void of emotion. She compartmentalizes those things, but it's worked well in her life. She's highly successful for it. She has, from what we see, a successful marriage from it. And so Lisa is a great leader and a great overseer with the cast, and just, giving them advice. I think Lisa, too, the cast has helped Lisa become more vulnerable. We saw on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, her interactions with the other women, and her having some really close relationships, and those relationships being severed, and her not feeling like she could trust those relationships, where we see this anxious avoidance come up, right? And this is just my clinical opinion, and so we see that, and those are really hard to repair. But I think in this environment, in dealing with younger people, she finds a way to really have empathy for them, even when they kind of burn her. I mean, we've seen Jax over the seasons burn her many times, and she's able to have empathy and understanding and really take on a mother role to help. And I think that the cast, having a younger cast, it's kind of been somewhat therapeutic and allowing this facade, this character, if you will, on Vanderpump Rules. It allows Lisa to be more vulnerable and be mothering and be nurturing, because we know that's something that she enjoys doing. And so that opens up that space for her. So again, if I had a client that fit that profile, doing identity work and finding, ways to increase that vulnerability would be helpful, so that the client feels like, okay, I can be in relationships with people and not always have to be in charge or be intimidated. intimidating, I can express my emotions in a safe space and be comfortable with that. So that's Lisa. Now, let's talk about Scheana. Scheana. So, Scheana, I adore Scheana. First, I just want to say Scheana has come a long way on the show. She has really been beat up by these girls. Stassi, Katie, Kristen, I mean, you name it. She's taken the blows. She's taken the lumps for sure. And she's taken them well. She really has. She always gives back kindness. You know, she's always trying to see the positivity in things. And I feel that Scheana's a very authentic person. She really is. She's not afraid to be vulnerable with people. She's not afraid to take accountability for her actions. But also the thing that when I see a client with this profile that I'm curious about is for clients who are givers, for clients who are really transparent and trying to be authentic and giving and have a big heart, clients that I have like that hang out with mean girls or hang out with girls, their friend group, they're never enough, or they're the scapegoat. I get pretty curious about what that dynamic is about. Is it about trying to prove something to someone? If these people think I'm great, then I am great. That I don't really believe it inside. There was something that her husband said this season that really caught my eye. He said they were in a clothing store, I think the last episode, and he said, you know, your mother is constantly reminding you that you're not the best mother, that you can't have anyone else watch our child because you're not this great mother, and like if you let someone else watch your kid, then you're going to be this terrible mother. And it really sparked this, okay, maybe this is why someone with this profile would feel like I'm not good enough. It's not enough. It's never enough. And hanging out with these girls, maybe if I'm enough here, then I then am enough in life. So when I see someone with that profile, that's something that I'll be kind of thinking about, right? Also, I've noticed with Scheana, you know, we've seen over the years her weight fluctuate. First, I just want to say Scheana's always been a beautiful girl. Whatever weight she is, she's a beautiful girl. As a Black woman, you know, I really appreciated her curves when she was really curvy. She's a lot smaller now, and if she's comfortable that way, that's great. She likes it. I love it. But I do notice that there's some body image stuff going on there. And, you know, I empathize with her being on TV, people talking about you, looking at some of the other girls, wanting to be as thin. I really empathize with that for her. But when I see a client with this profile, some body image work would be something. Definitely seeing the anxiety that she has. Someone with this profile probably has an anxious attachment style. You can see it in how she interacts with the rest of the cast. With a client with that profile, the treatment plan, we would definitely be doing some meditation, some yoga, any somatic work to get into their body, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, you name it, really trying to help the client find tools to manage the anxiety. And we see on the show that Scheana does talk about her anxiety and her OCD, which is a part of anxiety, right? And so her getting the support she needs, and I think it's really great that she's sharing that on the show, that she's sharing her, you know, her struggles with that. So again, if I had someone with that profile, those would be my recommendations, and those would kind of be my treatment plan work. So next, let's talk about Lala. And you can't talk about Lala without talking about James. James and Lala, two peas in a pod, right? The thing that I love about James and Lala is their just transparency on their struggles with addiction and them really trying to get a hold on that. We've seen Lala do a really good job working her AA program, taking it one day at a time. And we've seen James try, right? But we see that addict brain. It's like, okay, if it's not the alcohol, then it's the weed. If it's not the weed, then what else is it, right? But going back to shifting back to Lala, Lala is very prickly, right? We see on TV she doesn't trust people well. She's been hurt a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if someone with this kind of profile that Lala has a trauma history. And this is kind of like a way to protect themselves. We can also see that Lala has probably had therapy. She's very self-aware of what her struggles are, what her presenting issues are, and really trying to get help for that. But also seeing someone with this profile kind of lacks accountability sometimes in the moment. We see sometimes it's hard for someone with those characteristics to emotionally regulate, right? To really kind of emotionally regulate, to stay in a rational state. It's not till after, okay, I can see what I did, I can understand, I can process that. But I give it to Lala that she recognized that alcohol was not helping that situation, and she's on her journey work to try to continue to emotionally regulate, to work her program, to find good supports. One thing though, when I work with clients that are working AA, I really am always assessing like who they're hanging around. And if we notice, it's got to be hard for Lala to be on a show where everyone's drinking all of the time. And we see in all of these episodes them going out to eat and everyone getting drinks. And she doesn't, right? She does really good with that. But it is a little scary place to be. And then also it's, I get it. This is your show. This is your livelihood. So you want to be there. But I would really hope if I had a client like this, that I would definitely be putting some supports in place to help them navigate that space, because it is a dangerous space to be in. So I think in characters like this and in profiles like this, people can be really strong. But again, that accountability piece is really important. And also having a village around you of people that hold you accountable. And, these people are on a show, right? So it kind of breeds in ignorance to accountability. And so you see some of the cast members fighting with that, right? Like, okay, my hands are dirty here too, but I feel some type of way. And so I think we see that with Lala. But again, her work would, I think, be more around that accountability, more around ways to ease anxiety and emotional regulation, also identifying triggers, maybe some EMDR work for trauma. I can put some information about that in the comments as well if anyone wants to know what EMDR is. She may be a good candidate for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone with that kind of profile has a trauma history as well. So then if we talk about James, we see a lot of some of those same characteristics in James. And that's why they are two peas in a pod, right? And James, I just want to say, he's one of my favorites. I mean, James, his mouth is like, he can really clap back, okay? James, he's been through a lot on the show. He's dished out a lot on the show, and he's just so resilient. I just think I get this this mom countertransference with him. I have boys, so James is just lovable. Whatever he's doing, whatever he's saying, I think he's adorable. What can I say? James can be prickly too. He can really just have a wall up, right? Have a wall up. And so a lot of the work that I would be doing with him if I had a client in this profile is really holding them accountable to working a program, to going to AA. I would really be doing everything that I can to keep them accountable to that. I would also be assessing a client with this profile for bipolar disorder. We see on the show, and we've seen over the years, James' family, right? And some of the issues, the addiction issues, I know his mother had. His father, I'm not really sure. But I wouldn't be surprised with a client, if I had a client that fit this similar profile, that I would be assessing for bipolar disorder. there's a couple of things that we see sometimes with clients that present in this way that would just kind of make me think, maybe we should do some assessments around that. There's two different kinds. There's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, and they present differently. I would probably be leaning, if I had a client that fit this profile, more towards bipolar 1. However, I'm not really sure. There could be some other reasons why some of the behaviors from a client like this, if we saw with presenting issues that were similar, that they could be happening. One could be trauma. There could be a history of trauma. There could be ADHD as well. So I think that's another reason why I love James on the show, because James has struggles and he's not quiet about that. He's not embarrassed about that. He's here. He takes up space. And I think he's a really good example of, you know what? Sometimes I'm not emotionally regulated. Sometimes I say things I shouldn't say and do things I shouldn't do. But it's okay. I brush myself off and I keep it moving. And he also holds a wall up. He really wants to be seen and loved. I think that someone who fits that profile has probably felt unseen for a long time, hence the behaviors. Like, I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be, this idea that any attention is good attention, even negative attention, right? And so I would assume, I know his mother adores him, but when we're struggling with addiction, I would assume that there are ways that as a child maybe wasn't seen. I wasn't seen. I wasn't heard. And so I'm really glad that, someone with this profile gets a chance to be on the show, hopefully is getting some of that external validation, but also in working with a client like this in the treatment plan, other than assessing, really working on that internal validation, right? How do we get the internal validation? We all know that we all want external validation. However, it always comes up short. It's never going to be enough, right? So we really have to do the work to give ourselves the internal validation. And that would be a part of the work that I would do with a client presenting in this way. Next, we're going to talk about Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval, but we're going to do that, the Toms. We'll also talk about Katie, and we're not going to talk about Raquel too much, or Rachel, that we know she wants to be called. We're not going to talk about Stacey, Brittany, or Jax. We know Brittany and Jax have separated. I wish I could say I didn't see that coming, but we know 50% of marriages end in divorce anyway, and we already saw that there were some presenting issues going into that marriage. Red flags, if you will. I don't like the term red flags. We all have flaws. None of us are perfect, right? So, but we saw some things that needed to be worked on prior to the marriage, and hopefully that they're doing okay. But we will talk about the Toms and Katie. We'll start the next part to talk a little bit about Katie. Then we'll go into Tom Schwartz, and then we'll go into Tom Sandoval, and talk a little bit about Raquel probably too. So thanks for joining me for Healing Culture, and look for parts 2 and 3 shortly.